Good morning, gorgeous, gorgeous you. And yes, happy Canada Thanksgiving today. What a glorious, glorious day to give thanks. Oh, yes, every day is a good day to give thanks. We are beating the drum of appreciation all the time here. I've got my autumn scene going. I put on our holiday on our table here, our little sort of tartan holiday. It's so soft and comfy. So you can climb right up on the table there if you want some energy work. Face down, face up. There's a face cradle there. It's up to you. Just relax and call in your guides, your healers. So happy to be here. So let's just relax and breathe. And we're, of course, going to start with our Lightworkers Creed. Here we go. There is one life. That life is God. That life is my life now. In God I live and move and have my being. I believe in miracles. I believe in the radical action of God's love here on earth. There is no opposite to this power. It flows from God through me now. I believe that I am divinely guided to right action today. I believe that God's will for me is only good, that we are eternal beings, and that God never punishes. As a light worker for God, I believe that I am a luminous vessel of divine light and that I am loved and lovable. I am worthy. I am enough. I am powerful and able, forgiving and forgiven. I am joyous, peaceful, healthy, prosperous, and loved. In gratitude, I release this day to grace to unfold in wonderful ways for the highest good. And so it is. So I invite you to gently close your eyes and let your shoulders drop and relax as all the thoughts slow down. Let all of the energy centers begin to open. As you begin letting go, let go of everything that's happened so far this morning and yesterday and last week. Let go of your plans for later and tomorrow and next week. Relax the jaw and the tongue and the eyes and the forehead. If you like, you can do some gentle head rolls just to release any tension in the neck. And as you breathe in, feel your heart expanding in its capacity for joy and love. Nice soft belly. Relaxing the buttocks as you sink down into the seat or where you're lying. Let the arms and legs grow loose and limp as all stress or tension drains down, 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 through the fingertips and the soles of the feet like sand through an hourglass. As you relax on the stream of light, the stream of well-being, the only stream there is. And you are so deeply relaxed because you know there's nothing to fear, nothing you need do. There's nothing to get rid of or grab hold of. All is well when you are relaxing in the stream. You remember that any problem comes from resistance to the stream, and you have released resistance. You are breathing freely in and out the peace and grace of God. For you are one with the Source, one with life. There is no other life, no other source. Therefore, you already have everything. Everything is yours. All good, all life, all wisdom and power, infinite guidance. All you have to do is activate it through your focus, through your attention. Whatever is active in your vibration, in your consciousness, is what appears. So if ever there is something appearing that is not to our liking, we simply withdraw our attention and put it elsewhere. We activate something we love, something we enjoy, something we like. So what are you choosing to activate right now? Feel it. Get into the mood. What's the mood you want to set? The mood is a state of being. It's a state of consciousness. See it, feel it. No manipulation, no effort, no struggle. It's so easy. How easy are you willing to let life get? Are you willing to be effortlessly supported by the universe? Can you imagine a life in which you have limitless support in everything? imagine a life in which everything flows with such ease. And the better it gets, the better it gets. What would that feel like? What does it feel like? Keep breathing and allowing. Open to receive. I am open to the divine flow. I am open to effortless, limitless support. I am in alignment with effortless good. I am the creator of my own world, my own kingdom, the kingdom of consciousness, filled with delights. I am the central character of my dream, my movie, my play, my book, my story. I choose the story. I cast the characters. I write the dialogue. I am a mystic. I am an Imagineer. I am an artist creating this life. Take a deep breath. As a creator now, choose, decide, set your intention first for how you want to feel at the end of this transmission. And how do you want to feel this week, regardless of what does or doesn't happen? And you might go even deeper to see what is your soul's deepest intention in being here today. We fold all of these into our group intention, which is, as always, the healing of our minds, our restoration to joy, to sanity, to inner peace. We recognize that we have been drawn together by the power and in the presence of God. It is to God that we devote our time spent together, as well as our relationships to one another, knowing the Holy Spirit within us will so guide us in our thoughts and feelings and perceptions of all things, that we may go to sleep tonight as happier, more peaceful, and more loving beings. So be it. So it is. Amen. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. glorious, glorious Sunday to you. So glad you are here. Thank you for joining in, for being here in our merry band of mystics in the Mystic Protection Program. Today we're going to talk about the penthouse of possibilities. The penthouse of possibilities. There's a talk of Louise Hay's that is about embracing change. And in that particular talk, she asks the question to this live audience. It was taken from a live talk that she gave seminar. And she says, "Are you living in the dungeon of limitation or the palace of possibilities?" And I love that. I don't really want a palace, but I love a penthouse. You all know I love a penthouse. And so I thought, I'm so into, because we've been talking in this module already about considering the possibilities instead of considering the limitations. So of course that was a synchronicity, and I'm having so many fabulous synchronicities now as I've started to activate synchronicity. So I'm going around all the time going, synchronicity, God is on the field. So I'm having all these fabulous synchronicities arise over and over and over again, and that was one of them that I heard that talk just this week of Louise's again. And I hadn't heard it in years and years and years, and it was just right in alignment with right where I am now, as is everything in our lives, whether it's wanted or unwanted. So that's what this is about, is really creating our penthouse of possibility. If you're ready. Are you ready? Are you ready to create? Or maybe you're already in it and you want to just expand. I know that by the end of this, you are going to be feeling so good if you want to. But you're not going to be feeling good if you don't want to. And I know that I cannot convince you otherwise. I am so free now of trying to change anybody or convince anybody of anything other than my own self. This is the freest and the happiest I have ever been in this particular lifetime. And yet, outwardly, nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is my own perception. Projection makes perception, the Course says. And so my story within has changed. And so I watch it starting to have these little buds of things in my outer world showing up, those synchronicities, where I say, yes, it's working. That's what's activated in my consciousness. And I have really had this fabulous experience of a break with reality. I have lost touch with reality, and it's been deliberate because I am so focused now on creating my own reality. But, I'm understanding that in a whole new way now. We've heard that for years and years and years, because the first, as far as I know, where that really originated was with Jane Roberts and the Seth material. Seth, as far as I know, and many people say that Seth was the birth of what people now call New Age thinking, that Seth was the first one who said, you do create your own reality. And, for most of us, and most people who hear that, and Abraham talks about that all the time, we tend to think in terms of this outer physical reality. And that does come in time. Sometimes quickly, sometimes takes a while. But the reality that we're creating all the time instantly, and Terry Cole Whitaker used to talk a lot about instant manifestation, is within. It's the story we're telling ourselves about our reality. And that's why, all of us are living in our own world and in our own reality that we have created. That's why people, who all grow up in the same house can tell wildly different stories of what went on in that house. It's because everybody is activating within them what they're focusing on and seeing. But I have withdrawn so much from the outer focus of things into my own really there's a thing in the Course in Miracles that says, I rule my mind, which I alone must rule, which also goes along with, I have a kingdom that I must rule. And it is that inner mental kingdom where we are creating our own reality all the time. But I've gotten so into it again for the first time since I think I was growing up in Pennsylvania, where I really was a dreamer and I imagined all the time. And so much of my imagination, though, at that time was about getting out of the situation I was in, getting away from and out of that town, those people, that oppression. Pennsylvania, I always say, is proof that hell is full and the dead walk the earth. So, I have a lot of judgment, and I don't care. My judgments, I'm fine with them now. I just wanted to get away from it. But my world now has nothing to do with getting away from what's happening in the world now. I'm not trying to leave anything. I'm moving towards something, and it's come very clear into my mind now that so much of the moving around that I've done over the last, since 1981 is when I left Pennsylvania and moved, is that I kept trying to really create an external reality that I thought would happen in that place with varying levels of success. And what I realize now is that I was trying to create something that does not and will not exist here in this physical plane. It's really only going to exist in another reality, another dimension. And so that's where I'm living all the time now. I was really, I've moved to Palm Springs 3 or 4 times now, and I realized that I was trying to move to Palm Springs in the 1960s. But that's all over, and those people are all gone, and that lifestyle doesn't exist anymore. So I've really started literally writing down my own stories, with my pictures. I do all my pictures and my everything in my grimoire, my spell books. I used to call them prayer journal. Now they're my spell books of this other world that I'm creating, where I live. Most of the time, I live more and more in that world all the time. And I know that when I drop this body, that's the world I will wake up in. One of the things that Neville says, I've never talked about this before. One of the things that Neville talks about, Sylvia Browne talked about this, lots of people in various places talk about this at various times, but don't go into much detail, where they say, and Neville was talked about this from time to time. He said, when you drop this body, you will wake up in a world just like this. It's not different than this. You will still have a body. It will still be you, but you will be young. You will be whatever age you want to be, 20, 30, whatever. Sylvia Browne said on the other side, everyone's 32 or something like that. But you will have absolute instant manifestation. So you'll be able to shift that body anytime you want. You can go from being male to female. As soon as you think about something, it's manifested in front of you. If you want to be in Capri, you'll be in Capri. And there's not the contrast there. So there's not fighting. There's nobody there who's going to argue with you or fight with you or want something different than you want and try to convince you of it. So I started populating that word. Like, well, I'm going to get ready for it now. So I've all these stories of that. So synchronicity, God is on the field. So I was at the restaurant I go to most here. Just up the street from here, the WeHo Bistro. And sometimes I'll have lunch at the bar. If I don't want to be at any of the tables, I'll sit at the bar. And so the bartender will talk to me. And he said something to me. No one's ever asked me this before. This is why it was such perfect synchronicity. He said, if you could have a dinner with anybody, living or dead, and I don't even know if he mentioned how many people, he might have said 6 or whatever. He said, who would it be? And I mean, I just fucking started rattling people off because I had already started creating a life with people. I was like, Frank Sinatra, Lucille Ball, Katharine Hepburn, Betty Davis, George Michael, Whitney Houston. Like, I was just naming off all the people, Robert Osborne. Like, I just started rattling off all the people who are already populating the world that I'm creating. So I'm telling you this because I want you to know I've had a break with reality. So if you want to leave because I've gone crazy, you should run now. But this is the world I'm living in and enjoying and loving like you can't even imagine how happy I am. And many of these things have come right in alignment with A Course in Miracles in the way that I read it. So I'm just going to read little snippets here from the Course and my own particular take on it. In having, I keep talking about going rogue, that I've gone rogue, that I have just literally thrown out everything that the world taught me as just utter, okay, that may be true for you, but it's not true for me. So I've really left behind all religiosity. And this took 65 years of trying to sort of break that habit of religiosity and any belief that any religious book is true, that any story that's told in any of them is literally or historically true. To me, just like Neville and Joseph Murphy say, they are absolutely, thank you, John, they are absolutely just mythological stories, parables about our psychology. And that's what they are for me. So I don't take anything as gospel except in terms of what the word gospel actually means, which is the good news. So anything I read that doesn't seem like good news to me, I go, fuck that, that's not true for me. That may be true for someone else, but it's not true for me. So lesson 129 in the workbook of the Course really came home to me this week as I've been creating this reality for myself. Because for a while, it was lesson 128, which I resisted for decades. And then when I realized that it was finally true for me, when I had no more goals, where I was like, I don't even know what to pray or treat for anymore. I don't have any goals. I don't have any, I'm just so done with that. I have no ambition. I have nothing that I want to manipulate or control or make happen. I'm so over that, okay? I'm not really affirming anything anymore. I'm so over that it came to lesson 128, the world I see holds nothing that I want. This, in the last year, became, especially when I was living in Santa Barbara, of God, the world I see holds nothing that I want. And it goes into about how the world has done nothing but disappoint humanity since the beginning of time, because nothing here lasts, nothing here is stable, nothing can be counted on. And this just, just became truer and truer and truer the more I thought about it, of the world I see is a shit show. It holds nothing that I fucking want. But the next lesson after that, because this is just the setup, the next lesson after that is the joy and the freedom, which is beyond this world, there is a world I want. So when I'm looking with my physical eyes, the world I see holds nothing that I want, but beyond this world, there is a world I want. This is the thought that follows the one we practiced yesterday. You cannot stop with the idea that the world is worthless, for unless you see that there's something else to hope for, you'll only be depressed. Our emphasis is not on giving up the world, but on exchanging it. Now, we've talked about this a lot over the last, since in the summer and all this year, we've talked about we're never asked to sacrifice and give something up for nothing. We only ever exchange. So we exchange our thoughts for the thoughts of God. We exchange limitation for limitlessness. We exchange this world for another world. Our emphasis is not on giving up the world, but exchanging it for what is far more satisfying, filled with joy and capable of offering you peace. Think you that this world can offer that to you? I don't. I don't think it can offer me this physical world. No, I don't think so. Okay. So it goes on, blah, 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 about, just making the choice between the two worlds. All right. Beyond this world, there's a world I want. I choose to see that world instead of this, for here is nothing that I really want. Then close your eyes upon the world you see, and in the silent darkness, watch the lights that are not of this world light one by one until where one begins, another ends, loses all meaning as they blend into one light. Today the lights of heaven bend to you, to shine upon your eyelids as you rest beyond the world of darkness. Here is light your eyes cannot behold, and yet your mind can see it plainly and can understand. A day of grace is given you today, and we give thanks. This day we realize that what you feared to lose was only loss. The thing that we feared to lose was loss, okay? Now do we understand there is no loss? Because again, the world that we see is just the illusion of a mass of people's fear demonstrated outwardly. That's why it's unstable. That's why it changes all the time. That's why nothing here physical can be counted on. What rises falls. What appears will disappear. Now do we understand there's no loss, for we have seen its opposite at last, and we are grateful that the choice is made. Remember your decision hourly and take a moment to confirm your choice by laying by whatever thoughts you have, and dwelling briefly upon only this: the world I see holds nothing that I want. Beyond this world, there is a world I want. Then the next lesson is, it's impossible to see two worlds. Perception is consistent. What you see reflects your thinking, and your thinking but reflects your choice of what you want to see. Your values are determiners of this. For what you value, you must want to see, believing that what you see is really there. No one can see a world his mind has not accorded value, and no one can fail to look upon what he believes he wants. We have to choose the world we want to look upon, and then that's active in our consciousness, and whatever is active in our consciousness is what we will see. This becomes the synchronicity that makes us go, God is on the field. And then you know that you are God. You are God. You are on the field. You are the creator. One with the infinite creator. All right. It is impossible to see two worlds which have no overlap of any kind. Seek for one, and the other disappears. Begin your searching for the other world by asking for a strength beyond your own and recognizing what it is you seek. You do not want illusions, and you come to these 5 minutes emptying your hands of all petty treasures of the world. You wait for God to help you as you say, it is impossible to see two worlds. Let me accept the strength God offers me and see no value in this world, that I may find my freedom and deliverance. God will be there, for you have called upon the great unfailing power which will take this giant step with you in gratitude. So this world must be consciously created by us through the imagination. This is why Neville over and over again, imagination creates reality. Let me move in here before I get so carried away and so happy with creating. This is also why, incidentally, in the memes that I've been making, that I'm posting on the blog and things, we've gone back to the joy of Pam Grout. The thing that I love about Pam Grout is that she makes it playful and fun. That it's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be hard work. It's not supposed to be, the thing that I really, Florence Scovel Shinn wrote that book, The Game of Life. And there was always something about that was sort of just, she said, people say that life is a battle, but I tell you life is a game. But to me, that wasn't any better because I hate games. I have always hated games. My whole life, I have hated any kind of game because games are still a battle because there's a winner and a loser and you're in competition. And this is why, the country is just a football game. The United States is just a big football game. The way that people have football teams that they love and stand by right or wrong no matter what and hate the other teams is just the Republicans and the Democrats. It's just the this and the that, the right and the left, the conservative and the liberal. It's all the same fucking thing. And I want no part of either side or of any of it at all. I have washed my hands of all of it. The only thing that I liked to play was pretend. I loved to play pretend. And I can look and see now that the things that I loved to play pretend at then are my current reality. I loved to play school. I had a blackboard, like a full-size blackboard and with chalk and desk and lesson. I had because I had a little clubhouse because my dad was a carpenter. So he built a little clubhouse. Well, I liked a club, just like a fucking secret society. And you know what else we would do in that little... So with my friends, I would sort of force them into, because I was the leader of this little thing and it was my clubhouse. So we would play. And also there were things that we had around... Because my parents were older and had lived full lives by the time I was born. My mother had raised an entire 3 brothers who were now adults living, on their own by the time I was born. She had a restaurant, so we had things left over from the restaurant. So she had a cash register. So I liked playing business. Right? I had a cash register, and I was an entrepreneur, and I had like a store, and people bought things. I also had this little secret society. And what would we would have seances, and I would have my crystal ball, and I would talk to the spirits. Everything that I played pretend at then, I am living now, because that's how reality is created. It is created through playing pretend. You pretend your way in, because you have to have the feeling. So many of the stories in the Neville books are about people who didn't even know what they were doing. Like people who had written books or written scripts or written stories that then literally came true, not in their own lives, but in the external world. This happens all the time, all the time, all the time. Whatever we're focused on and activating becomes the story, the movie, the play that we are ultimately living. So, tell yourself a more delightful, happy story. Cast the people in it. So I started casting the people in my stories literally filling it in with such delights of, the way I leave this room is I get on a cruise ship. And of course, you don't need anything. I don't even need a body. You just go on this cruise ship that takes you into the other world. And we start off cruising Portofino, and you get off and you go to, various first-class 5-star hotels and little cafes and wonderful restaurants. And you cruise around as long as you like. And then you travel wherever you want in this reality. So I had various houses and condos and penthouses all across whatever world this is. A lot of it is like Palm Springs in the 1960s, where, Desi and Lucy are still married and in love, and they have a house here, and we go out to nightclubs and we belong to the country clubs. I want to read a little bit from the Catherine Ponder, A Prosperity Love Story. This is her memoirs. She calls it Rags to Enrichment, a memoir by Catherine Ponder. It took me a long time to realize that I was trying to create in this illusory world a reality that's not available and that's never going to happen, that is in the past, when I should have been just creating it in consciousness and moving into it and knowing that it is real. So she talked a lot about that life of Palm Springs in the 60s and very early 70s. Life, Palm Springs style. What a dream it turned out to be, Palm Springs. All the things the this countess wanted her to move to Palm Springs had written me about, saying they should happen, did. The world-famous Racket Club, for instance. The handsome Charles Farrell, a longtime movie and television star, had long since sold the Racket Club but still managed it. He was greatly revered not only by the Hollywood community but also in Palm Springs, having served as one of its great early mayors. However, since we were not from Hollywood, our becoming members of the Racket Club seemed impossible. Our lawyer, doctor, accountant, banker, and insurance agent all assured us that it couldn't be done. Again, I pictured it. I imagined it. Our being welcomed into the Racket Club. Getting there took a year, during which we seemed to stumble upon just the right people to sponsor our membership. When my husband announced to everyone who had said membership was impossible that we were now members, they were stunned. Countess Viola's dream that we should join a country club came true for us more easily. Bermuda Drooms Country Club, home of the annual Bob Hope Desert Classic, was the only club in the desert at the time that had a 27-hole golf course. Its clubhouse was located atop a hill, overlooking golf courses on several sides. So she just goes on and on about this, and meeting the movie stars and meeting the whatever. So yes, I also have a beautiful home there. On country club grounds, as there's these homes that all surround country clubs. It's a wonderful little place with a pool. We overlook the golf course. It's the community where I'm pretty sure Tom Costa lived. Oh, and all these people there. Louise Hay is there, and Terry Cole Whitaker's there, and they give daily talks that I can go to on the cruise ship. George Michael and Whitney Houston have a little club, a little sort of cabaret with the old-fashioned tables with these little kind of lamps on them. And, you can smoke there because it doesn't hurt anything. And you have alcohol, it doesn't get you drunk. I've got a whole fucking world going on of happy, joy that gets my cork going every day. And because I am in a space of no attachment to this world whatsoever, everybody in my life here is free to come and go as they please. I have no more thought that anything of this world is my source one way or the other. Because of that, and because I'm living in that place of activating that joy, then this illusory world keeps getting better and better and better. But I have to be very diligent in what I'm interested in and what I'm activating. So I've spent less and less time on social media and on reading what's going on in the world and all of that, because you're getting whatever you're focused on and interested in, whether you want it or not. Here was another funny synchronicity. I was talking to Zan, and I was telling her this story of, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Steve and the show Blue's Clues. I only know Blue's Clues and Steve because it was really a show for millennials. And it was, like a kid's show that millennials grew up watching. And Steve, who was in Blue's Clues, would speak like this directly to the camera. So the kids had a relationship with him because he was talking to them directly like this, asking them questions, waiting for them to answer. And he then left the show, and everybody grew up, and he was sort of missing from the world. Nobody knew where he was, and there were rumors, he had died, he had this or that. And then a year or two ago, he showed up again. And he'd been living a happily life as an actor and in a band and all this stuff. But he showed up on social media and did the same, but now he's grown. He's a grown man, a millennial, and he was doing this thing on like Instagram, I think, looking into the camera and saying, you know, we haven't seen each other in a long time, and I want to know, how are you? I mean, really, how are you? And then he waits for them to respond, and then he says more, and millions of people lost their shit over this. Just completely lost their shit. So many responses of, as soon as Steve said, how are you? I just burst into tears. I sobbed. I read something the other day of a woman was watching it and her son, who was not, I don't think knew Steve from Blue's Clues. She said her grown son, who was like 23, 24, 25, something, was walking and heard Steve saying, how are you? And he burst into tears. And a lot of the responses to this was, not good. How are you doing? Not good, Steve. We're not doing good. None of the millennials are not doing good. So then I watched there's a new documentary about John Candy that's on, I think it's on Amazon, that I watched. And Macaulay Culkin is in it, because Macaulay Culkin was in, I think, 2 movies with John. He was in, I think, Uncle Buck, and it was before Home Alone. And, you know, Macaulay Culkin's father was a raging fucking prick who abused those kids and was just the asshole of the world. And everybody sort of knew that. And he was already like that before the fame and money came to his kids. So in this documentary, Macaulay Culkin said, John Candy could see that my dad was an asshole. And so he would say to me from time to time, are you okay? Is everything okay? Are you all right? And Macaulay Culkin said, you know, which was very unusual, because he said, nobody asked us. Nobody asked kids that. Nobody cared, and nobody asked, but John cared. And then I posted this thing on Instagram that I saw after I had that conversation with Zan, because what I said was, I haven't asked anyone how they are in 40 or 50 years, because what I assume from my experience even as a child growing up is, if you ask anybody how they really are, 99.99% of the people are going to go, not good. They're going to go, it was a good document. They're going to go, not good, not doing good. So I don't ask, I assume you're not doing good. I just assume you're not doing good, because in this world, if you really ask people, people will go, not good. It's the struggle is real. It's hard every day, because this is hard here, okay? You know, as I say, I allow you once or twice a year to tell me how hard it is, because it is hard here. But I go, I don't ask anyone that, because I know what they're going to say. So I did post this video that then came, of course, synchronicity, God is on the field, of this stand-up comic saying that he asked some 20-year-old server in a restaurant, how are you? And the guy goes, honestly, not good. And he goes, I didn't want honestly. He said, I didn't want to know honestly. It's just a polite question. I don't want to know how you really are. He said, what you want is like a 60-year-old waitress named Barb, because if you ask Barb, how are you really? She's going to go, I'm fine, hon. What are you going to have? You know, she just wants you to get out of here as quickly as possible and tip her. But that thing of, what is it that we are focusing on is what we're getting more and more of. And if what we're focusing on is how it's not good in the world, how things are a struggle, how hard it is, that's what we're activating, and that's what we're getting more and more and more and more of. So I have, to the best of my ability, been just methodically unsubscribing, unliking, unfollowing, whatever, of anything that tells me that things are not good. So, for instance, there's something called WeHo Daily or something like that I followed up until yesterday. And then I was like, well, I can't follow this anymore because it's ridiculous, because it had shown this thing of, and it had a little video of it, of somebody being robbed at gunpoint, broad daylight here in West Hollywood. And I was like, that is not what I'm wanting. That's not what I'm activating. Because then I immediately start thinking, oh my God, Am I not safe? Should I not be white? Should I get pepper spray? Should I be doing this? Knowing that in my defenselessness, my safety lies, I'm not going to manifest that. I'm not going to create that. I'm not going to attract that, because in my world, when I zig, they zag. So I don't need to know about that. I don't need to know about potential catastrophe down the road, or things to be wary of, or what to be wary of, because then I'm just going to activate them. And in my world, I'm having dinner at Ciro's with Lucy and Desi and Katharine Hepburn, and we're going to listen to Mitzi Gaynor do her Vegas show, okay, with her gay background dancers, and we're just having a ball, okay? And when I'm in that vibration and that frequency, then I walk through this physical reality, and I'm not seeing Mitzi Gaynor or Lucille Ball or anything, but I am a match to anything that is delightful, prosperous, health-giving, joyous, and I become invisible to the opposite of that. I don't show up on the radar of anything unlike that. I've read this to y'all a million times, and I'm going to read it to you a million more if I'm here. From Joseph Murphy's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. How a famous scientist and physicist escaped from a Russian concentration camp. Dr. Luther von Blech-Schmidt, a member of the Rocket Society and an outstanding research electronic engineer, gives the following condensed summary of how he used subconscious mind to free himself from certain death at the hands of brutal guards in a Russian prison camp coal mine. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he manages to, because they do a head count and the count is off, he just walks out of the concentration camp. So it's obviously not as highly guarded as it should be, but he ends up, through his consciousness, through his vibration, because he's imagining himself free. I do want to read that part. I started concentrating on my escape. I knew that my subconscious mind would somehow find a way. My home in Germany was destroyed, my family wiped out, all my friends and former associates were either killed in the war or were in concentration camps. I said to my subconscious mind, I want to go to Los Angeles and you will find the way. I had seen pictures of Los Angeles and I remembered some of the boulevards very well as some of the buildings. So every night and day, I would imagine I was walking down Wilshire Boulevard with an American girl whom I met in Berlin prior to the war, who is now my wife. In my imagination, we would visit the stores, ride the buses, eat in the restaurants. Every night, I made a special point to drive my imaginary American car up and down the boulevards of Los Angeles. I made all this vivid and real. These pictures in my mind were as real and natural to me as one of the trees outside the prison camp. Every morning, the chief guard would come and count the prisoners as we were lined up. He would count out 1, 2, 3. So anyhow, he gets off the count. So when the crew returned in the evening, the number of men was the same, and I was not missed, and the discovery would take a long time. I walked out of the camp undetected and kept walking for 24 hours, resting in deserted towns the next day. I was able to live by fishing and killing some wildlife. I found coal trains going to Poland and traveled on them by night until I finally reached Poland. With the help of friends, I made my way to Lucerne, Switzerland. One evening at the Palace Hotel Lucerne, I had a talk with a man and his wife from the United States of America. This man asked me if I would care to be a guest at his home in Santa Monica, California. Synchronicity, ding, God is on the field. I accepted, and when I arrived in Los Angeles, I found that their chauffeur drove me along Wilshire Boulevard and many other boulevards which I had imagined so vividly in the long months in the Russian coal mines. I recognized the buildings which I had seen in my mind so often. It actually seemed as if I had been in Los Angeles before. I had reached my goal. I will never cease to marvel at the wonders of the subconscious mind. Truly, it has ways we know not of. Well, more recent story than that is, if you know the actress Alex Borstein. So Alex Borstein was on Mad TV. She had a lot of crazy characters on Mad TV. And she does the voice in like I think maybe The Simpsons, cartoons like that, and was in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon. Well, she received an Emmy for that, and in her Emmy acceptance, you can go on YouTube and watch this. She talks about how the reason that she was standing on the stage, she said, is because her grandmother was in a concentration camp and literally walked out. And one of the guards, and she said to the guard, I think she said to the guard, what would you do? She said, would you shoot me if I just walked out of here? And he said, I wouldn't, but somebody would. Someone else would. I wouldn't, but somebody else would. Well, that was all she needed. So she walked out. She walked out, and like this, she made her way to America. So when we hear these things, we go, oh, is it made up? Is it impossible? No, of course not. Absolutely, because we are living in the penthouse of possibilities, not the dungeon of limitations, paying no attention to the bullshit of the world. You know, yesterday, Diane Keaton made her transition. This was another thing that absolutely inspired me with her. The fact that she was such a complete original who did not live by, like she created her own fucking reality, totally. Did not live by the rules of the world. She was as quirky as fuck, a real, you know, what's the word? She was weird, but like eccentric. She was a very eccentric person if you saw the way she dressed and the things she talked about. She was a true eccentric, but she marched to her own drum. And it was really like one of those things when you hear about somebody passing and people will say, well, it's to then sort of take what you loved about that person and, you know, implement it into your own life. That she was not trying to get the approval of the world by playing a particular game. But how can I be like a regular actress or a this or that? That she just lived in her eccentric way, doing the things that she wanted to do, and she got such a kick out of everything. She laughed at herself, she laughed at other people, she had so much joy. Now, I'm sure she had plenty of sorrow and upset as well, but she certainly was someone who went for the joy in life. And I was sort of contrasting that with, I had just seen this thing with Jane Fonda where I'd seen the quote, and then I saw her actually, was on video of her saying it, where she was saying, oh, that I think she actually said terrified. She's terrified that she'll never work again. She's fucking 87 years old, okay? And she's terrified that she's never going to work again. And to me, that's somebody who has no, I mean, I think that Jane Fonda is very smart, and I've read many of her books and autobiographies, and she's done a lot of self-examination and growth and all of that. But she seems to me like someone who has a very difficult time enjoying life. To be able to just sort of enjoy life, that there's always has to be something, you know, like, but I was thinking about at 87, she wasn't saying like that, it was that word, to be in terror and so afraid that you'll never work again. It reminds me of Joan Rivers being so afraid that you'll never work again. But both of those women being terrified of, I'm not going to be able to do my work again. And certainly what they mean is in the way that I want to do it. But you look at what they bought into and what they did to themselves. I mean, it's harder for an 87-year-old woman to get work in a movie looking like Jane Fonda looks with what she's done to herself, because you have to look like a real person. This is why, you know, we talked about June Squibb, who's 95, but she looks like a normal person. Okay, she hasn't done something to herself. Judi Dench still works because she hasn't done something to herself based on what the world wants her to forever be 25 or whatever. Oh, you have to be fuckable still, or you have to be whatever. That this thing of, no, I'm not going to try and play by the fucking cultural rules and laws and standards of what success is, or what beautiful is, or what happy is, or what any of that bullshit is, because it's impossible to see two worlds. I'm either going to live in that world or this world. I'm either going to live in the world of, I have to line up with what the world expects and wants of me and win in that ruthless fucking horrible game of competition and scarcity, or I'm going to live in the world of being a true artist, of creating my own life and my own world and my own reality, where I'm not looking to somebody else to be my source, a producer, a director, a man, a woman, a political campaign, whatever, that I am the artist. This is why in A Return to Love, Marianne Williamson says, you're an artist of the soul. You are an artist of the soul, creating your own world. If you don't like the world you've created, start working on it. Maggie Smith, right? Maggie Smith worked right up to the fucking end because she looked like a person and she wasn't terrified that she was never going to work again, right? Oh, my God. So I'm in my own bubble. I'm in my own mystical, magical, unicorn bubble. I want to look here and show some of the, let me pull up some of the things, these Pam Grout quotes that I do. When you get on the joy and gratitude frequency that I write about in this book, you radiate an energy that draws things into your life. The right people serendipitously walk across your path. The answer to a troubling question miraculously appears. And this is the whole idea of everything on my vision board now are just pictures of things that delight me. There's no affirmations. I'm not trying to manifest or create anything. I just know they're already in the reality that I've created. So she says, another theme I've noticed about, because she's talking about how people get so upset of, I've tried this manifestation shit and it doesn't work and being positive doesn't work. She goes, another theme I've noticed is just how hard these readers are trying. Repeating affirmations, making vision boards, drawing focus wheels. I have nothing against those practices. I've been known to use them myself. But what happens when we fight and work and struggle because we think nothing will change unless we do, is we put up roadblocks to all the good that wants to manifest right before our eyes. The last thing I noticed about the Life Sucks emails is how deadly serious they all were. Oh, the gravitas, the sobriety. I did everything exactly as you said, they'd accuse with a hint of feral anger. And every time I was tempted to tell a stupid joke or make a goofball face. Anything to get them to lighten up, people. The whole idea is to have fun, to play around in the quantum sandbox. But yelling at serious people never works. At least it never works on the serious voices in my own head. But here's what does. Giving myself a break, counting my blessings, and getting on the frequency of joy and gratitude. When I began focusing on what could go right, instead of the more popular viewpoint touted on the news, I found my so-called problems had a way of fixing themselves. I discovered the less I did, the better my life worked. The more I identified with the invisible realm of goodness, joy, and beauty, the happier I became. The less I planned, the more magic became available. Not long after I graduated from college and landed a job and was running my own affairs, I noticed negative thoughts about money dive bombing for my attention. I found myself worrying, wondering if running out of money was imminent, questioning whether or not I could afford the new bike I wanted or the new computer I needed. And one day, during an early morning jog, I suddenly got it. Those thoughts were exact clones of comments my mother often made when I was growing up. And even though there was no evidence to support those fears in my own life, I had downloaded them straight into my consciousness without even being aware of it. Needless to say, that wasn't a paradigm that served my highest good. I consciously rewrote the paradigm that ran my financial life to, I can afford anything I want. In fact, I'm so prosperous, I never need worry again. As an independent freelance writer, I also appointed God as CEO of my career. I figured there was no way I could run this fickle writing business with the faulty wiring and negative thoughts I'd downloaded from my past. Clearly, I needed a new, energetic paradigm. And yes, let's do that quote from Emmett Fox of The Door of Soul Opens Inward. And this is from that little booklet of his, The Mental Equivalent. Remember this, the door of the soul opens inward. If you will remember this, it will save you years and years of waiting for demonstrations. Write in your notebook, the one you carry in your pocket, not the notebook you keep locked in your desk, because that is a mausoleum, or better still, write it on a card and place it on your dresser. The door of the soul opens inward. And pray to God that you may remember that truth every time you turn to Him in prayer. You know what it means when a door opens inward. The harder you push against it, the tighter you close it. When you press or force or hurl yourself against it, you only close it on yourself. When you relax and draw back, you give it a chance to open. In all theaters and other public buildings, the doors open outward. The law insists upon this because crowds are apt to become panic-stricken, and then they push, and if the doors opened inward, the people would imprison themselves and be killed. The door of the soul opens inward. That is the law. Relax mentally, draw away from your problems spiritually, and the action of God will open the door for you, and you will be free. There's an old legend in the Middle Ages that's very instructive. It seems that a citizen was arrested by one of the barons and shut up in a dungeon in his castle. He was taken down dark stairs, down, by a ferocious-looking jailer who carried a great key that was a foot long. The door of the cell was opened, and he was thrust into a dark hole. The door shut with a bang, and there he was. He lay in that dark dungeon for 20 years. Each day, the jailer would come, and the big door would be opened with a great creaking and groaning, and a pitcher of water and a loaf of bread would be thrust in, and the door closed again. Well, after 20 years, the prisoner decided he could not stand it any longer. He wanted to die, but he did not want to commit suicide. So he decided that the next day, when the jailer came, he would attack him. The jailer would then kill him in self-defense, and thus his misery would be at an end. He thought he would examine the door carefully first, so as to be ready for tomorrow, and going over, he caught the handle and turned it. To his amazement, the door opened, and under investigation, he found there was no lock upon it, and never had been, and that for all those 20 years, he had not been locked in, except in belief. He could have left any time he wanted. He was in the dungeon of limitation, and it was totally his own belief. He could have been in the penthouse of possibilities for 20 years, but he never believed for a moment that he had the power, like Dorothy, to create whatever he wanted. So we live in a dungeon or a penthouse, given whatever we believe for ourselves that day. Where are you living right now? Are you in the penthouse of possibility? Or are you in the dungeon of limitation? I have no choice. It's never going to be my turn. I have to do everything. Oh, poor me. There were two other ones I wanted to get to, but we'll do those on Wednesday. Fabulous, also course lessons. Well, I'll tell you what they are in case you want to read them ahead of time. They're 187 and 188. 187 is I bless the world because I bless myself. And 188 is the peace of God is shining in me now. So we'll talk about those a little bit in them. But I also want to, I'm not done with you just quite yet. And I've read this to you a million times before as well, but we're going to do it one more time. How to get the results you want. The principal reason for failure are lack of confidence, and too much effort. Right? That's what Pam Grout was talking about, is not playing and having fun, but making it, I'm affirming, I'm visualizing. And then you're really just manipulating and controlling, and you're in do, instead of align. Many people block the answers to their prayers by failing to fully comprehend the workings of their subconscious mind. When you know how your mind functions, you gain a measure of confidence. You must remember that whenever your subconscious mind accepts an idea, it immediately begins to execute it. It uses all its mighty resources to that end and mobilizes all the mental and spiritual laws of your deeper mind. This law is true for good or bad ideas. Consequently, if you use it negatively, it brings trouble, failure, and confusion. When you use it constructively, it brings guidance, freedom, and peace of mind. So, effortless, easy peasy. It's a good lesson, isn't it, Colleen? So easy peasy. So this is the thing, is how easy and effortless am I willing to let my good come? This is the real question here, okay? And this is why we did this in the beginning, and I want you to just keep with it, of how much are you willing to be supported? To be supported by the universe. And the universe, has millions, billions of hands. So we're not looking for people to support us. We're looking for the support of the universe and source, and then it will come through people, because that's how it works. It'll come through those things, but they are not the source. They're just the avenue. So to just begin or continue, if you've been doing, to just imagine that you are so supported in every area, in every single way, by source, by the universe, by God, by the divinity within, by yourself, whatever words you use. I really am into infinite intelligence, infinite source now, of supporting me, and focusing on what I love. And one of these things where I'm writing every day now, I read out loud things I love, because that's what I want active in my vibration and active in my consciousness. So whatever it is, just things that I love, I love whatever kind of flowers or food or whatever, it doesn't matter. What kind of friendships you like to have, what kind of adventures you like to have, what kind of TV shows you like to have, the things that are important to you. I always say beauty and order. I like beauty and order. I'm really attracted to beauty and order. If things are organized and they're beautiful, that I find that really soothing to me, makes me feel peaceful, makes me feel relaxed, makes me feel, talking about in many ways the world that most attracts me has vanished from this physical world. It's not something that people care or like. There were certain places I went to in Palm Springs that mostly all went out of business and were replaced by tacky shit. I don't like tacky shit. I don't like kitsch. I don't like diners. I left diners behind in Pennsylvania. And so don't take me to a fucking diner. Somebody in San Diego was like, oh, you're going to love this place. He took me to this kitschy diner. I was like, this is what I fucking moved 3,000 miles away from to never fucking see again, okay? I hate this, okay? The place that I loved in Palm Springs was white tablecloths and champagne flutes. And they would bring you a hot, carafe of, the press thing. They would give you a whole little thing, and everything was on beautiful china and all this. That world barely exists anywhere anymore. But I love that stuff. So I'm able to line up and find those little treasures that still exist One of the places that I love in Palm Springs, I don't know if I'll ever see it or go there again, is Riccio's, which is right on the main drag, because they still have some of that it's really a sort of like an Italian kind of steakhouse. And so I love that place, and the people there know me, and I love going there. But those places are rare. Suzanne Summers is in, because, she loved that world too. Johnny Carson, Suzanne Plachette, Suzanne Summers, they're all in the other world that I go to. We eat at Le Dome. We eat at the Palm Springs restaurants. We like to dress up and have a good time. I'm telling you, choose your reality and stick to it. Choose your reality, stick to it, regardless of what's going on around you. And you're going to just be happy, happy, joy, joy. All right, we're going to do a prayer, and away we go. So I invite you to close your eyes, take a deep breath. Moving into that state of imagination, the inner vision, the theater of the mind, the penthouse or palace of possibilities, where you are the creator, you are the chooser, you are the author, the director, the producer, the actor, the four great ones. So just imagine now how you would like this week to unfold without having to manipulate or control anyone else, just your energy, your focus, your feeling. Feel it, and now release it. I give it to you, subconscious mind. You know the how. How is not my part. Take it, do it. I will look for the synchronicities to know God is on the field. I am in alignment, alignment, alignment. Show me the way. Open the doors. I offer myself now for this guidance. Hands, feet, voice. Where to go, what to do, what to say, and to whom. Remembering now, as always, the way that I will know this joyous, creative, loving force is by letting it circulate through me out into the world and back. For this we are so thankful. So be it, so it is. Amen. Yes, my lovelies, it's going to be amazing. If you believe it, if you imagine it, if you keep coming back to the highlighted route over and over and over again. No one else can convince you. No one else can sell you on it. You're the one. I'm the one. I love you. I love you. I love you. Have a fabulous, fabulous rest of your Sunday.